We're back for part 2 of the Showdown in the Badlands card review. Now, these are cards that came out today, October 20th, and yesterday, October 19th. Starting with Bunny Stomper. 2 mana, 1/3 beast. Your beasts have rush. You might be thinking this is a playable card, and a lot of Hunter decks in Wild, and I and many players have come to the conclusion this card probably won't actually be playable in many Hunter decks. It actually might be playable in some funny jank things like a Boar Rogue, which I've actually thought might be pretty interesting. But there is a very good player by the name of Copper Scum. You've probably heard of him. He is the guy who always is pushing Beast Hunter and is the one who really created the deck. And even he doesn't actually think this card makes the cut. So I'm going to give this a solid not playable in Wild. It probably will not be a real card. Here is the first Ogre Gang card. Ogre Gang Outlaw. 3 mana 4/4 rush, 50% chance to attack the wrong enemy. This is not that bad of a card, actually, because it has rush. Typically, Ogres, like in the past, that had an effect like this, were very bad because they didn't, have rush, and you would just play it for stats, and then it would be bad, right? This card's not going to be playable in Wild by any means, but it's definitely an upgrade to Ogre cards we've had in the past. Bounty Board. This card's interesting. I think that there is a world where this card is good in Mindlock. Now, you might be saying, wait a minute, Mindlock just discounts their hand with Mithril Rod. Mithril Rod is 5 mana, do nothing the exact turn you play it. This is 3 mana. If you understand where I'm getting at, Mindlock doesn't need... How do I phrase this? Mindlock is already going to beat any control deck in the game, right? Or if you use, Shellfish, of course. But not spending 5 mana to do nothing lets you actually beat, aggro decks a little better. So I think this card actually could possibly make the cut in a deck like Mindlock, and maybe push it. I don't know, Mindlock is an okay deck, but it's not very good. So I'm going to give this a okay playable in a pretty mediocre deck. Snake Oil Seller. 4 mana 4/5, Death Rattle, shuffle 2 tradable Snake Oils into your opponent's deck. It is a Naga, and this is the Snake Oil. 0 mana, tradable, deals 0 damage. This card, in theory, is just an upgraded Badlands Albatross for a lot of decks, right? You play it, you shuffle in 0/0, or 0 mana spells that do nothing, and it turns off Highlander effects, which, of course, this expansion is theming around Highlander, so a card like this does make sense. I do not think this card is as good as Albatross, though, because Albatross shuffles in 1/1s, not 0 mana minions that also are tradable, right? I don't think this card sees any play in Wild, because Albatross currently sees no play, so yeah, I don't think this is playable. The second Ogre Gang card is Ogre Gang Rider. Rush, 50% chance to give your hero +3 attack this turn instead of attacking. And it is a 3/6. That's not actually that bad of an effect, all things considered. Of course, this card will not be playable in Wild. It's a generic stat bomb minion that has no tribal synergy, and it doesn't really do much. So it's not going to be playable, but these Ogre cards are really interesting. Maybe if there was like a way to mana cheat them, or things like that. Of course, they have a legendary that you might be able to spot in the bottom down there. I'm going to go over it when we get to it, but of course, these cards are not going to be playable. Azurite Chain Gang, 4 mana 2/3, Taunt, Battle Cry, and Quick Draw. Summon a copy of this. Excuse me. This card is kind of good, actually. It's definitely going to be the alternative to Fin Twin in Shutter Shaman. Now that the Murloc package kind of got killed, you're gonna be putting this over Serenite Chain Gang because it just is better than Chain Gang. So this is a definite playable card. It's just, of course, is Shutter Shaman going to be good? Probably, with Yogg and subsequently Miracle Rogue and Questline Druid slowing down, which will be nerfed in a week or so, as the patch said. So, of course, those won't be decks when this comes out in a month. But I do think this card will be playable. Howdy Finn. 2 mana, 2/3. Whenever your hand has less than 3 cards in it, get a random Murloc. This card is absolutely insane in any kind of Murloc deck, right? The issue is Murloc decks are kind of bad and aren't playable, of course, but any Murloc deck in the future that exists will play this card. No question. So, for now, it is unplayable, I will say. Rattlesnake, 3 mana, 1/5. At the end of your turn, load 2 bullets that deal 1 damage each. Death Rattle, fire at random enemies. That's a mouthful. So, a lot of people were quick to compare this card to Augmented Porcupine. And Augmented Porcupine is a bad card outside of, Porcupine Hunter, which is, of course, a bad deck. This card is significantly worse than Porcupine. I don't think this card sees any play whatsoever. Cattle Rustler, 5 mana, 3/4, Battlecry, draw a beast, it costs 3 less. When this card was first announced yesterday, it was horrifically bad, right? But with the Bunny Stomper card that had just been announced, there is a world where you play this and you play Hydralodon together. That's way too slow for Wild, don't get me wrong. But in Standard, will be a real combo, actually. Of course, this card is not going to be played in Wild by any means, so there's that. Ogre Gang Ace. The last of the revealed Ogre Gang cards, 5 mana, 5/4, rush. Whenever this attacks, gain Divine Shield. 50% to gain Lifesteal instead. This is actually a really good effect. This is actually a really strong card, even. If it were... How do I word this? If there were a better way to synergize this Ogre Gang mechanic, this card would be the star of it, right? Because 5 mana, 5/4, get Divine Shield every single time that you hit a minion. It's actually pretty good. Lifesteal is a nerf, definitely, but this is actually a decent card. Of course, it's not going to be being played in Wild by any means, but there is a world where if we see more synergy towards this Ogre Gang archetype, it could be pretty interesting. Azurite Giant, 8 mana, costs 1 less for each turn in a row you've played an Elemental. 8/8. Yeah, this card's really bad. Everyone knows that the play an Elemental after, turn over turn mechanic is fundamentally flawed. It just doesn't work. It's not very good. It's not easy to accomplish. So playing an 8/8 that doesn't actually come down early, because that's the main power of Giants, is the ability to play them early. You can't play this early, right? You could play it on turn 5 for 4 mana. That's okay at best, right? Actually, it could be 3 mana on 5, now that I think about it. That's not good, but it's better than what I initially thought. I don't think this card sees any play, but it could be fun in a jank Elemental Mage deck. Lastly, the legendary version of the Ogre Gang cards, Kingpin Pud. Battlecry, resurrect your Ogre Gang, give them Wind Fury. This is the main reason why these Ogre Gang cards are even slightly interesting, because this is a lot of stats. If you curve the 3, which is 4/4, the 4, which is a 3/6, and the 5, which is a 5/4, into this 6/7, that's an incredible amount of stats, if you can pull it off. Is it going to happen? Of course not. Is it interesting? Oh, man. I don't think this sees any play in Wild, of course, but I would love to be proven wrong with this, actually. I'd really love to be proven wrong with this Ogre Gang archetype. Maybe if they printed a 1 and 2, it actually could be real to curve it out completely. But other than that, I just don't think this card sees any play. Yeah, so tell me what you think in the comments below. Do you think I'm wrong on any of these cards? Do you think I'm spot on? I'd love to hear it. Well, I'll see you guys next time.